Igniting the light through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we run, together we climb. Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Wednesday, so we're going to get right in the middle of it today. We're going to be talking about your Detroit Lions news and rumors, what Jared Goff and Dan Campbell had to say yesterday on 97.1 The Ticket, the rumors that are flying around, and the plan for Sunday's game has not changed. We're expecting a bitter fight till the end for both Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. Looks like they're going to be playing some starters, if not all starters, for Detroit. I don't know that I agree with this one. Well, we've talked about it yesterday, but that's the plan for Dan, is he's going to play his guys. I hope it doesn't blow up in our face, but we're going to get into it here in just a few moments. We'll be right back, 17 seconds.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
All right, good morning, Eric. We have a whole whopping 19 people in right now. It is New Year's Eve.
That might explain it.
Everyone's probably sleeping in if they've got the day off. We know tomorrow we do plan to be on, but I'm sure a lot of people will be feeling it. I won't be feeling it.
I'm going to be feeling it. I'm feeling it today. I was out there for probably 7 or 8 hours plowing and shoveling snow yesterday. I broke my plow. I broke the carriage bolt. I broke the winch cable. Had to go to town because I just bought a brand new winch cable like 3 weeks ago. And the guy at the Harbor Freight told me, yeah, keep the receipt. So I put it in the box, and I had it all sitting on my tool shelf. And he's like, yeah, if that breaks, just bring it back. We'll give you a brand new one. So I went back. They didn't have any in stock.
Of course not. Of course not. But that's your first mistake, man. Harbor Freight. I know you're probably limited up there, but
yeah, I kind of limited up here, and dude, I'm freaking out because the cables they do have are like for a giant truck winch, and nothing's gonna fit my four-wheeler.
Well,
So
I'll give you an idea here.
yeah, well, I got an idea while I was at the store.
Oh, did you get? Well, see, Lowe's has steel cables.
Well,
you can buy it by the foot.
I was just gonna buy a cable because they had just the cable with no hook on it, right? Well, I'm like, well, I need a hook on the end so I can lift my plow up and down. So I get to looking, and right there it is, staring me in the face. A boat hand crank winch.
Oh yeah,
Had the cable on it and everything,
Yep.
and it just unhooked with one bolt, put it right on my four-wheeler. It was perfect, and it cost me $5.
There you go. There you go.
So it worked perfect. I put my carriage bolt back together, put everything back together, put the winch cable on, and it worked. And man, I only got stuck about 30 times yesterday. And I wake up this morning and there's 6 or 8 inches more, and it's supposed to snow all damn day.
Did you get the new upgraded blinker fluid on your four-wheeler?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you're prepared. You know.
Yeah, no blinkers on my four-wheeler.
You don't want that thing to freeze on you. I've gotten so many people with that. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know where to put it. I don't see where it goes.
Man.
Yeah, you can tell we're super excited about the end of this season.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about what's going to happen here in Week 18 for the Lions, it's
Yeah.
I guess I'm not surprised with the things that Dan Campbell is saying, but I guess I gotta start with a question about his most recent press conference, which I believe was on the 29th. When I was watching Dan Campbell, I'm like, man, this body language is everywhere. He looked absolutely deflated. More so, maybe I should say defeated. It didn't look like the normal Dan Campbell, that had energy and, was excited about things. And, I think we heard for 10 weeks in a row, we got to fix it. We got to get better and got to clean it up. Communication this. And in the 29th, it was just, I don't know. We got to do what we got to do. It was just going through the motions. He didn't want to be there. I think he's embarrassed more than anything, to be honest with you. And not that that's a bad thing. I think he's embarrassed because he feels and he knows that he has a team that should be able to win a lot of football games. And for whatever reason, it didn't come together this year. Again, the team with the most injuries, once again, or one of the teams with the most injuries, but back-to-back seasons. And I don't think that a lot of fans give that enough latitude, if you will, with Dan Campbell, that, look, this guy's battling, a team that had over 21 players on IR in 2024. Now, going into the season, we had no excuses, right? We were getting players back. We were looking for the future and saying, okay, week 8, week 9, week 10, we should be getting a lot of players, from the previous season back. We should be really healthy rolling in. And as soon as they come back, they're back out again. And I don't feel like fans have given Dan Campbell enough credit and latitude to understand what this team has had to endure injury-wise. Like, it's not easy to lose an entire defensive line, restart in the next season, and then lose an entire secondary multiple times and lose your 2 best players in the back end. Kirby week 6, Brian Branch, I think, was week 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. It's not easy. And, a lot of people say that you're one player away, Eric, and it's go out and get this one player, go out and trade for this one player. Well, look how many one players we have lost. And again, I'm not making excuses. It's reality. You're one player, Brian Branch. You're one player, Kirby Joseph. You're one player, Ali McNeil, misses the first half of the season. A lot of number ones on this team did not play. Terrion Arnold, in his second season, was playing well, couldn't play through the shoulder injury, and nor should he have. He should have been out, by week 6 himself. And instead, they kind of toyed with him, I think, a little too much. And now it is what it is. But if fans really believe this team is one player away, which we are not, We never have been. We definitely are not now. I don't know how you can't give this coaching staff a little bit of credit for having to deal with all of these injuries and what that does week to week schematically. Planning. You've got plans that are in place, and it's getting blown up, right in your face week to week, which is normal in the NFL, but it's abnormal when you look at what the Lions have had to deal with. So I've said a lot. What is your thoughts here on, fans maybe not giving Dan Campbell and this coaching staff enough credit for having to deal with a monstrous amount of injuries for 2 seasons in a row?
I would say turn it around on yourself. Put yourself in Dan Campbell's shoes. 2 seasons in a row, you are the most injured team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't care what it says about missed games or whatever. That's we're still second in it this year. We've got the most IR designations in the NFL with 19 right now, by a wide margin, by 3. And to have things fall apart the way they did, do you think that Dan Campbell wanted Johnny Morton not to work out this season?
Of course not.
But there was something super troubling from the very beginning with John Morton, from that very first game. And I think Dan probably brought him on in his office every week for the first 6 weeks and said, listen, you have to do this, and this. And then the next week he comes in and says, you still need to do this, and this. Come on, let's get it together. Does it for a week, but then 2 weeks later, he's got him back in his office again. Dude, this, and this, make it happen. And when it's not happening, you have to make a decision. You have to draw a line in the sand. And I think he did. And he just kept going with these stupid passes behind the line of scrimmage and all these 1-yard runs up the middle. So Dan took over the play calling. He saw the writing on the wall that this just was not going to work with Johnny Morton.
Yeah,
And
no,
that-
I get that.
And
But
that's just the first thread to start unraveling for your season,
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, I want to stay on point with the whole injury thing like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it takes a specific, well, maybe specific's the wrong word. I think it takes the right coaching staff to be able to navigate rough waters. And we've got a new coaching staff this year. Calvin Shepard, I think, is just fine. Johnny Morton, yeah, that was a failure. And when you look at what even if you want to say it was Ben Johnson or Dan Campbell, whoever was in charge, but Ben Johnson still had, and Dan Campbell still had multiple other coaches underneath them that had a ton of experience, were with this team for a long period of time, that knew how to navigate around some of these rough waters of players that were going to be, out for a while, and, who would be the best position to go in? How do you change up, the scheme from week to week with the players that you do have? And I think Aaron Glenn, I mean, defensively, I got to throw it back to Terrell Williams too. Those two, what they did last year, my God, they should have both earned whatever the best award is possible for an assistant and for a defensive coordinator, being able to put together a team to win 15 games on 3rd and 4th string defensive players. That is not easy. And for the fans that think that we were going to come right back and be a 15-win team, man, that's just not, it's not likely. I don't think either Eric or I ever once said that was possible. I mean, anything's possible, but not likely. But back to my original statement, I feel like it takes a very specific style of a coach with a lot of intelligence and understanding of your football team to be able to navigate those waters with all those injuries. And I just don't feel like we had it this year. I feel like, Johnny Morton, obviously a big mistake, but you're putting all that on Dan Campbell. He's having to manage the entire team and call plays, which he doesn't do regularly, and everything else that he has going on, and losing more than he wanted to. So how do we fix it in 2026 is going to be the question. Is it a change in venue with some of these coaches? Are we going to get new coaches again at specific positional coaching spots on this team, or are they going to roll with what they have again? I don't know, but I guess give me your 30-second Cliff Notes view on maybe why or why not it takes a specific or certain type of coach to be able to get through that.
Yeah, well, hey, let's say Dan Campbell throws an absolute curveball at every fan.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he keeps Johnny Morton.
That'd be a huge mistake.
Gives him another shot. What if it happens? You know, could. What if he keeps Calvin Shepard and keeps all the coaches that he has on his staff and says, let's run it back with healthy players? You know, you lose Laporta, that's huge on offense. We last year when we went 15-2, we didn't really have any offensive injuries like that to any of our core players.
We did, but it wasn't like that on offense, I think is what you mean.
Yeah. I'm saying it was mostly all on defense. I think we had 16 IR people, 15 players, all on defense, where this year it's been all over the field. It's been all in the secondary and then the offensive line and your best tight end. And when you lose that safety net, man, no wonder we sucked on third downs.
Well, let me expand on that briefly, because someone else mentioned this in the chat too. Like, and I want to get to Mastrovi's question here in just a second. The injuries are not how many. Attila the Hun Detroit says the injuries are not how many, but to who, in what groups. It was the secondary with Kirby Joseph, Branch Reed, Terrian, then Laporta, Goff's favored third and fourth down target, and then also the offensive line. And I think that when you take that statement and then you expand it a little bit more, I think what he's trying to say, and it's a great statement, is it's not how many injuries. We are the sum of our parts always, but when you lose your ability to have your safety net, Sam Laporta, your third down monster, and if he's not on the field, that means that St. Brown is going to get bracketed. He's your other third down monster, and J-Mo really hasn't been a third down monster. So you lose Laporta, and then you're taking St. Brown right out of the game because they're gonna double team him or they're gonna bracket him, and that really changes your identity on offense. So losing your seam threat, which I called it for multiple games, when the seam was going to be open, Sam Laporta was going to have big games, and the games that I called he was going to have big games, he did, and then he was gone right after that, and that's when third down disappeared for us. So I think it's a great statement. It's not about how many, it's about who and what it does to your identity, not culture identity, not identity of the team, but schematically, what you are able to do on the downs that you need to be successful with. So I think there's a lot that, you could really get granular with this. And I know what the answer would be by Dan Campbell, or the statement would be by Dan Campbell. It's the next man up. Okay, Dan, I get it. It's the next man up. But the next man is sometimes not always better, right, than the other team's best man. But this season we did see that. We did see that our next man was better than their best man. But other teams catch on to that too. The more tape they get on somebody, they know how to use it against you. It only takes a couple of games. And teams can learn a lot about those players quickly, but when they don't know enough about you, you can get away with a couple of things. And I don't think I ever spoke to that during the season, that, it's almost like playing that first week where there's no tape, you don't have anything on the other team, and you can get away with a lot because they don't know what you are yet. They don't know what you're coming out with. And once you play a few games, that team that you're playing in week 4, week 5, week 6, they've got the tape. So it's going to be a much more difficult time being able to execute things that maybe you got away with in the first couple of weeks. So Sam Laporta was huge. It was huge. Brian Branch was huge in the run game. I don't think a lot of us really grasp how important he was in that run game. Not only did he drop receivers right where they caught the ball, no yak yards, like very few, but man, he would come up and just slam that door shut up in the box and shut down the run on whatever side of the field he was playing on. So it's missing some pretty big players, and I feel like the impact was felt all over the team, man. Up next, I want to talk about Frank Ragnow, and I did apologize the other day to everybody on one of the posts in YouTube. I have been getting a ton of text messages. You guys have been doing a great job with text messages, and I missed them. I don't know how. I guess I didn't have the app functioning on my phone properly, and when I have the app open, on a browser, I just didn't see it. So there was dozens and dozens and dozens. I mean, going all the way back to like week 5. So I'm going to get into some of the questions that have been coming in this week. I've got about 20 or so. I'll get through a few. But when we get back, let's do that. Let's get into a couple of the questions. But first, we'll get into Mastrovi's in 17 seconds.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Okay, so text messages coming into the Rockhound Detroit Lions podcast number 313 podcast. It's a great tool for you guys to send in messages, comments, questions, statements, things that you want read on air for the next day or while we're live. So you just hit it up, 313 podcast. And here, I'll put the number on the screen real quick. Lock it in, because this number's not changing, man. I paid like $20. I don't know how I got so lucky, but lock in this number. I'm not taking calls right now, but I'm going to put it up on the screen so you guys know what it is. Mastrovi says, why do you guys think we have more injuries than most teams? Bad luck or something more? Eric, do you want to take this one first? Do you want me to take a whack at it?
You ready?
Yep, go for it.
The curse of Bobby Lane. That's it. Plain and simple. We did not exercise the demons with a bathtub full of gin. We only did it once. And I think Jeff Daniels and Peyton Manning need to get back to Ford Field and this time do 2 bathtubs full of gin or whiskey or whatever. Maybe they need to use beer this time. Let's exercise those demons. Let's get rid of it. I do not think it's the training staff. I do not think it is our doctors. I do not think it's the field at Ford Field. After getting to step on Ford Field a ton this year, and while covering the Panthers, I got to be down on the field a bunch and actually got to walk all over that field a whole bunch this year. I don't think it's the field. I think that playing surface is one of the most advanced playing surfaces there is.
Well, actually,
in the NFL.
It is.
And it is incredible. Go walk on it. It's like walking on the most spongy. I would much rather play on that than grass. I'll tell you that. So I don't know what it is. It's just it for all these people to blame the trainers or the physical therapists or the doctors that work for the Lions. BS. It's not a bunch of soft tissue injuries. It's everything all across the board, from Achilles to ACLs to broken bones. I couldn't tell you what it is. It's the NFL. They're gladiators. They're going to get hurt. It's just we've been unlucky the last couple of years.
Okay, I see you there. I'm gonna raise you a little bit. Playing surface. Let me start there. The players absolutely hate it. They want grass. And they want grass because grass is more forgiving. When your cleat gets stuck in the turf, it doesn't move. What moves is your soft tissues, your ligaments, your muscles. That's what will move. They snap. On grass, you still have injuries, but more often than not, what happens when that cleat gets stuck is that it'll give way because you have a natural surface. It's grass and dirt. And so it'll usually give way. Your foot will slide, which prevents a lot more injuries. However, when you look at injuries from both sides, grass and turf, they're almost even. And so it's not that they don't happen on both playing surfaces. I just think the gravity or the nature of the injuries might be a little bit worse on worse on turf. I've walked all over that field, since I was 4 years old. I've walked on the original one in at the Silverdome, and then a couple of times this year, a couple of times over the last few years. And they changed it, I want to say 3 seasons ago, when Sheila brought in the most advanced playing surface that there was available. Brand new field. And I don't think that the Lions are failing in that respect. Matter of fact, where are the majority of our injuries coming from? Is it away games or home games? I don't know the answer. I honestly don't know. I haven't looked. So I guess we'd have to look into that a little bit deeper. The second thing that I would add to that would be, I think that we're paying a physical culture tax. And I'm going to put this one on Dan a little bit. I feel like, the reality is that when you play with this grit, tenacity, the biting kneecaps identity, and you're out there trying to be the most physical team, but it's not just on game day, it's practice too. These guys are going balls to the wall, which there's nothing wrong with that. They want to practice like they play. I mean, that's the old adage that, I grew up with when I played ball. You practice like you play. If you play soft or you practice soft, you're going to play soft. You practice hard, you're going to play hard. It's muscle memory. A lot of it's muscle memory. So Dan Campbell's getting these guys out there, doing it the way that they would do it in a game in practice. And his camps are notoriously harder than most other teams in the league. And I think that was evidenced by Avonte Maddox this year when he had mentioned, and forgive me, I don't remember the exact quote. They had a physical practice, tackling practice during the season. And Avonte said, man, we would never have done this with the Eagles. Ever. We would never be, live hitting each other, during the season. And even that during the off season, or the training season, it wasn't to the level that the Lions do it. So I'm going to put this physical culture tax on Dan Campbell, and the tax is injuries. The more and more and more you stress out a ligament, stress out a bone, whatever it is, the constant hitting, you eventually it's going to break, right? When that happens, if that happens, that's up to the body part. But I think the more and more you do it at the level that they're doing it, you're asking for something to happen. So maybe Dan needs to back off a little bit. And then there's the training staff. I have to put a little bit on the training staff. And the reason why is, if you look at the Kirby situation, how in the hell did they miss whatever he has going on? Now, I can only speculate. If it's literally bone on bone in that knee, that didn't just pop up this year. That has been there. Your cartilage just doesn't disappear in the matter of a couple of months. And injuries, yes, they can happen. Soft tissue injuries can happen. You can tear the cartilage away from the bone, if you have an injury, absolutely. But it doesn't disappear. The spacing doesn't just happen to disappear. So I think that someone failed somewhere if they were only doing x-rays and not MRIs. And I'll speak to this from my own personal standpoint, my own personal experience. I got bad hips and knees, and I was getting evaluations from surgeons. And I went to a couple of different surgeons trying to get different opinions. And all of them kept saying the same thing. Spacing looks great. I don't see any reason that you're going to need new hips or new knees anytime soon. Then I was a 5-sport athlete. I put my body through the ringer. And then I said, well, no one's done an MRI. Like, how can I have this much pain? And you're telling me everything's fine. That doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no osteophytes. There's nothing that is, causing an issue here. X-ray looks great. Okay, let's do an MRI. So I get an MRI, pay for an independent one, get the results. And he's like, oh, you need new hips and new knees. All 4. But the MRI showed something else, which I'm not going to get into today. That pretty scary, right? It's something that I've been dreading having to take care of. But maybe they didn't do an MRI because it took an MRI for them to figure out with me what was going on. And you're telling me for 3 years I'm being told I'm fine, and then all of a sudden it's shit. You need all 4. Which one do you want to start with? And it's like, come on, what 3 years ago you could have been doing something different. You could have had me doing I don't even know what's available, injections or whatever that could have helped limp me along a little bit better. Reduce some of the pain, which I'm doing now, right? But maybe they missed it because I can speak to myself. This is an athlete. They go through way more than I ever have in the last 10 years. So I don't know. Now that I've said that, you have any change in thoughts, and I'll be right back.
Yep. So here's one thing you didn't think about. 3 of the teams that have the most injuries this year are right in our division is 1 with the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love, and let's see that other guy that they got, the defensive end that tore his ACL, Micah Parsons. And then you have the San Francisco 49ers. They're one of the most injured teams this year. And then you have the second, or the most injured team this year, the Arizona Cardinals. And there's something about all 3 of those teams. Okay, so the Cardinals lost Kyler Murray to an injury on their field. So the field for the 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, and the Arizona Cardinals are all natural grass. So are they cursed because they play on grass and we play on turf? Are their medical staffs horrible just like ours and deserve to all be fired? That would be my question. Go look at some of these teams that have the most missed games. So if you want to talk about the most missed games by players this year, that happens to reside in another team from the NFC North, not named the Detroit Lions, and that would be the Chicago Bears. The Bears have actually had the most people miss time this year, and once again, the Chicago Bears play on grass. So you tell me how 4 out of the top 5 most injured teams this year all play on grass and are the most injured. I think the Detroit Lions at number 2 or 3 on that list are the only ones that play indoors in a dome. All the rest of them play outdoors on grass fields. So that would be my argument for that right there. What do you guys think? Because that is an apples to apples comparison with injuries to the Lions. I would tell you, go look at injuries for the 49ers, the Cardinals, the Packers, and last but not least, the Bears. They all play on grass, and those are 4 of the most injured teams in the NFL this season. And for some reason, 3 of those 4 teams have been able to overcome most of their injuries. The Packers, not so much lately, losing their last 3 in a row and about to lose their 4th because they're going to rest everyone to try to sneak into that last playoff spot because they have it locked up. Tell me the last time that a team rested players going into the playoffs because of risk of injury and more to get their players back on the field for the playoffs than to win that final game. I don't remember it ever happening. And then if you were to take that 7th seed away, that's only been here for 5 years, the Green Bay Packers would not have made the playoffs the last 3 years in a row. They would have been on the outside looking in. And while you were gone, I was talking about how the Bears, the Cardinals, the Packers, and the 49ers all are top 5 in injuries this year. And they all play on grass.
Well,
so explain it to me.
Well, we don't know where all their injuries came from, though.
Yes.
That's the only thing.
Those teams play on grass while we play on a hard surf.
But where did the injuries happen? Did it happen at home or happen away?
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue.
Yeah, that information we don't have.
Right. So I don't care if they have a home field that's grass or not, because if the majority of their injuries happened at away stadiums that were not grass, then I think that answers the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think we'd have to dig a little bit deeper. I'll add that. I know Lauren McQuaig loves to do research. If Lauren ever wants to do that research, but I'll add it. So we'll investigate the injuries. It's been done, grass versus turf. I know that there's some documents out there. All right, let's just get straight into it because I'm on borrowed time this morning. I think I got about a half hour left. So
you got to be out early today.
yeah, I cancer center today, man. I got to go.
Oh yeah.
So let me just get a couple of questions kind of out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
This one kind of goes right in line with what we were talking about. Actually, I'll skip that one. Okay. Is Dan Campbell's grit speech getting stale? It feels like the players tuned him out 6 weeks ago. Can a motivator coach survive when the motivation is gone? I don't know which way to take that. I think that is a hell of a question. And speaking to the Dan Campbell grit speech, like every week it's, we're going to do what we do because this is the kind of team we are. This is the identity we are. Maybe I'll take that a little bit further. This team is built upon a couple of things, right? Grit and resiliency are probably the top two. Grit can be a multitude of things, right? I don't think that it's using the term grit is everywhere today. Everyone's been using it for the last 5 years since Dan Campbell, lit up the podium with it, and you see it in every sport. Hell, I watched F1 last night. It was in F1 last night. They used the term grit, and I just started laughing because that's Dan Campbell, man. You haven't heard the word grit before until Dan Campbell blessed us at the podium, 5 years ago. Almost 5 years ago to the day, just here in about a month or so. The question again, is Dan Campbell's grit speech getting stale? It feels like the players tuned him out 6 weeks ago. Can a motivator coach survive when the motivation is gone? Look, I know that there's been this crazy narrative flying around that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are infighting and there's issues in Detroit, and that's all lies. It's all BS. It's all fake. That's why you don't see one insider or anyone else discussing it, because it's all BS. Unfortunately, people fall for it. They're naive and they're gullible. I don't believe their franchise identity of doing things on, resiliency or being a resilient team and being a gritty team, being a team that, is going to fight tooth and nail, being, the last one, to leave practice and the first one in, right? That's all grit. It's how you practice. It's how you play. It's how you believe in yourself. It's how you believe in others. It's motivation. I don't think that Dan Campbell's ever lost a locker room. That's where I was going with that. I don't think that Dan's ever lost a locker room. I don't think that's any part of this. So I don't think that the motivation is gone. I think the motivation is there. I think that these players play for Dan. I think that this season felt a little bit different because I think there's something else going on. And I've been saying it for, I don't know, Eric, how long? 12 weeks? I've been saying something's different with this locker room. Something's different with this team. And it's not Dan and Brad. I think it's either a coach, a couple of coaches, a player, or a couple of players that have been somewhat of a virus. I don't know who it would be. I don't have any information on it. It's just a wild thought because I don't know why else it would feel the way that it does. I don't see the same energy from these guys. I don't. And I don't know what it is. But I don't think it's Dan Campbell's motivation. Any quick thoughts from you on it?
I was trying to find something that Corey Woods put out yesterday. Had to do with what you were talking about there. can't seem to find it.
All right, let me move on to the next one. So,
Okay.
I'll get into this. I'm going to save that one for a second. Go
Here it was.
ahead.
I've been sent this Lions trade rumor by several people, and I've seen it come across my timeline. Number 1, it's false. Number 2, it's not even sourced. Number 3, the person involved in the trade rumor has a no trade clause. Number 4, Dan Campbell wouldn't commit to his staff returning next season, but he shut down any hint of Jared Goff going anywhere. That says a lot. Number 5, if you haven't seen a Detroit Lions beat writer reporter share it, then why are you trusting random memes? Number 6, read 1 through 5 again.
Okay, so what was it about? Jared Goff?
It was about some stupid fake Jared Goff trade rumor, and he's saying the same thing about all this other stuff.
Yeah, who
isn't true.
Who put it
about
out?
Dan fighting with Brad, and what is the other one I saw? Oh, that the Lions are looking at different people to be the defensive coordinator and all this other stuff. He's like, if you don't see it from a beat writer, don't trust it. And that's it.
Well, I will say this. Not all beat writers have connections, right? Not all insiders have connections. Like for myself, I have connections, and I'm probably batting 98% on anything that I said was going to happen has happened.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely ever get anything wrong because I don't put a lot out there, because those types of conversations, that type of information or scenarios, they don't come up every day. They don't even come up every week. Hell, they might not even come up but a couple of times a year. And when you've got people out there that are putting that on their thumbnail almost every day, something wild and crazy is going on, they're full of shit. So,
and you're not trusting some Facebook meme is what he's saying.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm saying is, it's not that you can't trust some people, because there's some people that actually get stuff right. And there's some people that actually do the work. But there is a large majority of people that don't, and they just do it for clicks, and it is not sourced. It is not, and you don't have to give up your sources on everything, but the point being, if you consistently throw spaghetti against the wall and it never sticks, that should tell you something. If you're batting, 1 out of 1,000, that should tell you something. Yeah, I get it. Let me move on to the next one here. Ooh. Okay, this one was old. I shouldn't even say it. But I'm going to. Is Aiden Hutchinson still injured? We're just tired. I haven't heard his name called in a month. We need to know if we need to draft another edge to replace him, or someone on the other side. What makes sense? What do you know? Since the season's pretty much over, I think I know the timeline that you're speaking to here. I want to say, was it week like 11 through 14 ish? That
he disappeared for a while.
That he disappeared for a little bit with no sacks at least, but not a ton of stats. So I don't know if it was injured, or I don't think he's injured. I mean, he could be banged up a little bit. I'm sure everyone's tired, but these are athletes are not supposed to be tired. They can get tired during the game, but they shouldn't be tired, week to week. However, I will say this: I catch a bunch of shit about the schedule for the Lions when I say that they're not getting enough time off. Does anyone realize that the Lions played 6 games in 30 days? 6 games in 30 days.
I know that I traveled to Detroit 3 times in 12 days, and that sucked.
So there was 2 periods. There was 2 sets of 3 games where you had like, a run, a gap, and a run. And it was 6 games, and I think it was like 29 days, honestly. But 6 games in 30 days, that is unheard of. So could he have been tired? Absolutely. When the NFL stacks games like that, you should be expected to, to be run down a little bit. But Aiden's never going to say that. Aiden's never going to admit, to being injured or tired or whatever. He's too macho man for that. But I would say to the second part of the question, we need to know, do we need to draft another edge to replace him or the other side? I think that drafting another edge is smart. I think drafting D-line is always smart. You always want to address the trenches every year as much as you can. But like I said, roster roulette tells me this year you're looking to draft an eventual replacement. And I say that from the term of, no, I'm not saying we're replacing Aiden. What I'm saying is if Aiden happens to go down again, that you have another guy that's just as good or is becoming as good, someone that you can trust. If you have AQM doing what he's doing again next year, you're fine. But you need more depth, and we're going to lose some guys this year. And I think that drafting an edge will happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the first round. Hopefully that answers your question. Frank Ragnow. So let me just get into this last text, and it kind of coincides with Frank being done. Is Frank Ragnow staying retired? Is Frank Ragnow staying retired? The conversation this week with Jared Goff was enlightening. What do you think is going to happen in 2026? Eric, what do you think is going to happen in 2026? We're going to bring Jared Goff in here in just a moment. You can either say whatever he said or the quote that he said on 97.1 The Ticket, but I've already said he needs to stay retired. But what do you think, and what did he say?
Yeah, I'll let him talk for himself. But we are drafting the best center available. I'm going to tell you right now, in the first round, we're drafting the best player available bullcrap, it goes out the window. When you have a very glaring need and you have to get something, Dan might have to, or Brad might have to move up. He might have to move up to do it. But we're taking the best center in this draft. That's all that's going to happen. And you have to. I think edge can be second, third, fourth round. You're not taking a high edge. It's not happening anytime soon. There's too many other very, very glaring needs. And everybody's got to remember we have free agency too. And if the Lions do some workaround, we might have 80, we might have $100 million to play around with, depending on what they can do with some of these contracts. And we're going to be cutting some players that are under contract for next year.
It's quite possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that, I started speaking about yesterday. And if you read my article on DetroitFootballJournal.com, I kind of outlined it. So I'm going to go there next, and then we'll go to Jared Goff. Let me dial back to ads a little bit, because I know I don't have a ton of time this morning. I might come back tonight. We'll see how my time goes. I know it's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody, by the way.
Yes. And I guess to fully answer your question, no, Frank Ragnow 1,000,000% will not be back in 2026.
I don't think so either. And I've been saying it for a while that I feel like it's the best move for the Lions. And it's not because we don't want Frank back. It's not because we don't love Frank. It's not because we don't think that Frank can play the game. But if you are worried about Dan Campbell, like, you can't have it both ways. Okay? You can't. You can't say one thing and do another. You can't believe one thing, say one thing, and then allow another, I guess is how I should say that. So fans have been saying Brad Holmes consistently brings in these injury-prone players. So why the hell would you want Frank back then? Yeah. That dude is the most injured out of anybody. He has things that cannot be fixed. And all it takes is, one wrong step or one player stepping on his foot, and he's done. Right? So why would you want to bring that back? I get it. 10 games with Frank Ragnow is better than 0. But you don't want to be put back into the same situation of having to scramble for another center. Now, I would love Frank to come back and be a coach. I would love that. I would love him to get in there and help Tate Ratledge get ready And, maybe Tate can go spend the summer with, or the off season, with Frank Ragnow, and maybe do a couple of weeks of training, and Frank can unload everything he has. And maybe Jared Goff can be right there with him. Maybe they go somewhere together and they do some work. That would be the best thing, I think, for Tate Ratledge if you're even considering having him be your next center, which is on the table. All right, Dan Campbell said that that's not off the table. But what I had said yesterday in my article, speaking about the situation, I'll just give you the Rock's take version. At the end of the day, you know what? Let me see if I can throw this up real quick. Because there is a little spreadsheet that I put together in here that it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. It makes sense in my brain. I probably could have done a way better job on it, to be honest with you. But it makes sense in my brain.
One thing people haven't considered either, Graham Glasgow has really fallen off since Thanksgiving. And what happened right before Thanksgiving? The Lions tried to bring back Frank Ragnow. So that really tells you...
He was injured too.
Well, yes. But you have to imagine that his confidence really got shook when all of a sudden you're the starting center and they're going to bring back the old guy because he's way better than you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that Graham is all about the team. And by the way, here's a funny little tidbit. Maybe a little tidbit no one is thought about. Does anybody know who the center was for the Detroit Lions when Frank Ragnow was drafted? He was drafted as a center. The Lions moved him to guard in his first year. Does anybody remember? You got 10 seconds to put it in the chat. Who the center was in 2018? 5 seconds. 1 second. And here's the answer. Graham Glasgow. That is who was teaching Frank Ragnow to be a center for the Detroit Lions for an entire year. So when everyone thought that Graham was a giant mistake, I kept telling y'all I had full confidence in Graham. And I still do. And the reason why I do is because I knew what he did back in 2018 to get Frank ready. Now, I'm not saying he's responsible for Frank's career. I'm not saying that at all. But Graham was the teacher. He was the one that was helping Frank Ragnow get prepared to take over the reins. Now, had Graham been surrounded by guys that could play football to a higher level and not have all of these injuries, I think that we would have been fine this year. But unfortunately, we had a rookie at right guard who actually was I think he's a top 15 guard this year, which is great. And then the other side was riddled with injury, and then Decker was injured all damn season. So when bits and pieces of your offensive line start to disappear and they can't play to their level, well, things break down. All right, here we go. This is my article from yesterday talking about Caden Proctor, who right now is my favorite left tackle in the draft. And a lot of this stuff will change. It's the last day of December. Things will change once we start to get more information. But what I said was the Lions are in a fascinating window regarding their offensive line. The Lions have the best right tackle in football right now with Penei Sewell. The right guard spot is set for the next 4 seasons with Tate Ratledge. Should the Lions push Ratledge to center as opposed to drafting one, Christian Mahogany and Miles Frazier become the immediate guard options. It is too early to tell if Giovanni Manu will be ready to man the left tackle position in 2026. My honest opinion is to not make the mistake by missing out on a generational talent that Proctor may become. That leaves Manu or Frazier as the immediate backups at left tackle. The offensive line in 2026 could look like this. It looks like I put 2026 in there twice. I'll have to fix that. So here it is. Your starter on the left side, first or second round draft pick. Left tackle, left guard, all pro free agent. Center, first or second round draft pick. Right guard, Tate Ratledge. Right tackle, Penei Sewell. Your immediate backups would be Giovanni Manu at left tackle, Christian Mahogany at left guard. Tate Ratledge would be your number 2 center, which then would shove Miles Frazier over to right guard. And the reason why, I'll explain in a minute. And then Miles Frazier could also be your immediate right tackle backup. So you need at least 8 offensive linemen with Penei Sewell, Tate Ratledge, Miles Frazier, Christian Mahogany, and Giovanni Manu. That's 5. You need 3 more. I'm assuming we're going to gut the rest of the team, but Graham Glasgow could fit in here. Graham could be your 3rd backup center or your 2nd backup center, and then another backup guard. Now he's going to be making close to $9 million next year, and that may not work out for the Lions, but I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Graham as a backup, not a starter. Moving to your 3rd or your 2nd backup position, Miles Frazier could be a left tackle. He doesn't have any experience over there. He could be your left guard. I don't believe that either Mahogany or Frazier would be a center option. Mahogany could be a right guard. And then we don't really have another right tackle option on the squad right now other than Giovanni Manu, who could potentially be a right tackle. I don't like that option. And no, I don't think that Penei Sewell going to the left side is going to happen. I think that you leave him in play. He's played 5 seasons over there in the NFL. Why would you want to screw that up? He would have to totally readjust everything that he is doing. And I don't like that option personally. Doesn't mean that they won't do it. Trade options. I don't see any from center to left from the Lions perspective and or in the NFL right now. I just don't see it. And I don't see it because I think it's going to be too expensive. You're going to give up way too much draft capital. However, the right guard spot becomes interesting to me with Tate Ratledge going to center as a possibility. Kevin Dotson is the only one that I would say would be a decent trade option. You would pay through the nose. It would be like a Kevin Zeitler kind of move, a 1-year deal. He's on his last year next season. And with the eventual Matthew Stafford riding off to the sunset, probably after the season, the Rams are probably looking to do a small reset. And they're probably going to want to shed some money and try to get younger. And I think that Kevin Dotson could be on the trade block. And with Brad Holmes' relationship with Snead, I think that there could be something here. How much would it cost? I think that they could get Kevin Dotson for a 5th-round pick because you're going to, or maybe even a 6th-round pick because you're going to bring in a $16 million contract for 1 season. That would free up some cap space for the Rams as well. Free agents, of course, Tyler Linderbaum. That's what everyone's talking about at the center position. However, you're bringing in at least a 3-year, $60 million contract. That's what he's going to want at a minimum. At a minimum, a 3-year 60. And honestly, it'll probably be closer to 3 years at 80. It could be that high. So I don't see that happening. It's way too much money. But if it does happen, then I think that the Lions do invest, their resources on a left tackle in the 1st round. And you wouldn't see anybody else coming in free agency wise that is expensive or trade wise that is expensive for this offensive line. Tevin Jenkins, I'm not super high on, but I went through just about every option that's available today, not based on, after the new league year and when players start to get cut before the new league year. Tevin Jenkins is the only other player that will be a free agent that plays at a pretty decent level, and he would be about a 2-year, $20 million commitment. So he is a right tackle or right guard option, which does free up Ratledge to play center. So when you're thinking about bringing players in, you need players that have experience and players that have some, veteran experience, but players that can still play at a high level. Those are the only 3 options that I see right now. I don't see any left tackle options, like I said, trade or otherwise, that make any sense at all on the left side, unless you're looking to spend a bunch of money. Here's what I said. Miles Frazier is a bit of a wild card still. He primarily played right guard with a brief stint at right tackle at LSU. Should Tate Ratledge move to center, I believe that Frazier is the natural fit here at right guard. Some intriguing free agent and trade options may be available. Kevin Dotson, like I said, is entering his final season without any guaranteed money in 2026. Premium price, $16 million for a 1-year rental on a 29-year-old right guard is a bit rich with Frazier in line. Dotson is one of the best run blocking guards in the league with better than average pass protection. With very few sacks and pressures allowed, his presence would be welcomed next to Ratledge and Sewell. Jenkins could be a free agent target should the Lions make the move with Ratledge and look to add a veteran in his place. Should the Lions opt to go all in on the best free agent center, Tyler Linderbaum, Well, then Tate Ratledge would likely remain at right guard. This gives the Lions the option to find their left tackle for the future in the draft and allow Frazier and Mahogany to battle it out for that final left guard spot. Proctor is a pure left tackle that fits the Dan Campbell DNA of physicality and size, but the roster fit is a bit clumsy unless a major veteran move precedes it. What do I mean by that? Well, the clock is ticking on Taylor Decker. Should Decker not retire after this season, then the Lions could opt to release Decker. Should the Lions designate his release post June 1st, 2026, the Lions would save $15.05 million and a dead cap hit of $3.15 million in 2026 with another $6.3 million in 2027. I think that's a premium price to pay, but I think it's manageable. Decker is under contract through 2027, but he'll be 33 years old in 26 without any guaranteed money left on his deal after 25. If you don't think that was done by purpose, it absolutely was. The release or retirement of Taylor Decker frees up salary cap needed to make the moves in free agency. The good news is the Lions will have a few options at their disposal. Thinking of Caden Proctor and where he ends up, right now I have him as a 10 to 17 pick. The rationale, I think that with his mass and his SEC pedigree, they rarely escape the top 17 in the NFL draft. Team needs, well, teams like the Detroit Lions at 15, Kansas City at 9, Cleveland Browns at 6, New Orleans Saints at 8, Miami Dolphins at 11, Baltimore Ravens even at 16, or the Minnesota Vikings at 17 right now. I think they're all going to view him as a foundational piece to start building with or to protect their franchise QBs. Each team has a varying degree of age, need, or expense at the position currently that make the most sense. The Rams and Steelers are both in demand with picks early or currently north of pick 20 overall. That could also move up, or maybe he slides back. My likely landing spot is for the Detroit Lions. I expect the Lions to select a center or a left tackle in the first round of the 2026 draft. Should Proctor fall back in the draft, the Lions may opt to move back in the first round, securing offensive line future for the next 5 to 8 seasons. Thoughts for you?
It's going to be interesting, but I think that going after the best center in the draft makes the most sense. Whether we have to move up, whatever we have to do, even if we have to give up future considerations, I think it's time to let Brad cook. Give him the keys to the castle. Let him do whatever he wants, and time to maybe leverage some future draft picks for this season. Because this is according to what I've seen so far, this is a good draft for offensive linemen.
Yeah, so far, it's early, right? And there's going to be a lot of change with projections and where these players should end up, quite simply because it's this early and we don't have all the rest of the information, which I explain that in the article too. I talk about TAPS, which is my proprietary system that I built over the last 3 seasons. I explain, why it's working well and how it's worked and what to kind of expect, coming up, with this next draft and your Lions roster, but also there's just a lot of great information in it. And today is the last day, by the way. If you do sign up, make sure you sign up for the free account. Don't put in a credit card. Just sign up for the free account. Just put your email in and select free. And then I will upgrade you this next week for 2026. If for some reason you don't see you upgraded, email me, mailbag@rockdown.com, and email me with the email that you used to sign up with so I can make sure to get it done for you. But if you have subscribed currently, I'm going to upgrade you for all of 2026. So make sure you get that done today. Obviously, I just put the article up at the top of the page in the chat so that you'll be able to find it and do it to it. Eric, do you got your around the league in 60 by chance?
Sure, I can get that up.
I gotta look at my chart real quick.
Okay. I went too fast. All right, so let's go around the league in 60 seconds. This is just a snippet of yesterday's NFL news. Here's the latest news from around the NFL landscape for Tuesday, December 30th, 2025, including the major breaking news regarding the Diggs brothers. What do I mean by that? Well, Trevon Diggs, he was released, and Stefan, his brother, is in some legal trouble perhaps. The biggest story of the day involves a chaotic 24 hours for the Diggs family. The Dallas Cowboys officially released cornerback Trevon Diggs on Tuesday, just days before the regular season finale. The move comes as a shock given his history as an All-Pro, but reports indicate the decision was a culmination of events, including lingering injury knee issues and performance declines. He is now subject to waivers. Contrary to some rumors, his brother Stefon Diggs was not released by the Cowboys. He currently plays for the New England Patriots. However, Stefan is facing serious legal trouble of his own. On the same day his brother was cut, news broke that Stefan is facing assault charges stemming from an alleged incident on December 2nd. He has categorically denied the allegations through his attorney, but the twin headlines have created a media firestorm around both brothers today. And in other news, the Hall of Fame finalists were announced. The Pro Bowl Football Hall of Fame announced its modern era finalist class for 2026, and the list is headlined by first ballot locks: New Orleans Saints legend Drew Brees and New York Giants icon Elon Manning lead the pack, sparking the inevitable first ballot debates. Other notable finalists include Reggie Wayne, Jairi Evans, and Antonio Gates. The announcement has shifted the news cycle towards legacy talk, with Brees largely expected to be a unanimous selection when the class is officially voted on during Super Bowl week. And finally, we have Brian Flores has addressed coaching rumors. Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores held a press conference today where he addressed swirling rumors about his future with the Vikings. And the Vikings defense ranks among the league's best this season. Flores is considered a top candidate for multiple head coaching vacancies expected to open on Black Monday. Flores told reporters he is happy in Minnesota, but did not rule out taking interviews, emphasizing that his focus remains entirely on the Vikings' playoff push. But there is no playoff push for the Vikings. His non-denial has fueled speculation that he could be the top target for teams like the Jets or Saints, should they move on from their first-year head coaches. And then last but not least, Phillip Rivers. He officially retired again. After his emergency return to Indianapolis Colts that ended in a 23-17 loss to the Jaguars, the 44-year-old Phillips Rivers confirmed today that he is heading back into retirement. Rivers showed flashes of his old self in the loss, but ultimately could not overcome a simplified playbook and a battered offensive line. Quote, "I gave it one last shot," Rivers told reporters, confirming he will return to coaching high school football in Alabama immediately. The short-lived comeback will go down as one of the most bizarre storylines of the 2025 season. And that's around the league in about 60 seconds.
Very interesting. So I'm actually good. I don't have to get out of here till 10:15. So I got a little bit more time. Okay. All right, let me bring in the video. Let me bring in the audio video of Jared Goff, and we can talk about that. Let me see if I can speed it up a little bit. I'll speed it up just a little, about 10%. Here we go. Jared Goff, 97 won the ticket yesterday. Let's hear what he had to say. Oh, wrong one.
We thank you again, as always, for taking time out during the season. This will be our last time we talk this year. Just kind of sad. I'm sure you're very disappointed by that, and I know that we do enjoy our time talking with you, but it's going to be tough this week because of what happened last week, kind of ending the playoff hopes of the season. How did you guys cope with that after the game immediately once you were finally eliminated?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to deal with knowing that you're playing a meaningless game at this point. And the way that we played and the way that game went sucked. And even if you rewind 2 weeks, if we're able to pull off that Pittsburgh one and then somehow pull off last week, we're sitting in a great spot right now. And it sucks to play that game, but that's the game your brain goes through. And after that game, that locker room was real tough.
Do you ever get a sense before things happen that if it's going to be good or bad, that it's going to be good or bad? Like, did you get a sense before the game started that things may not go your way, or did this just unfold during the game?
No, you never think that way. You always think it's going to go great. And sometimes, they get paid too, and they played really well, and we didn't. And I certainly have my hand in that. And you look internally, and how do you improve? How do you get better? How do you find ways yourself to be better? And you hope all your teammates are doing that as well.
Jared, what is it about the Vikings defense, or maybe specifically more a Brian Flores defense, that makes it difficult to play against?
They do a good job of kind of forcing your hand schematically by putting an extra guy blitzing, then you have the block and then bluffing out of that. And so there's various ways to get after that defense, and we didn't really do any of them.
I know you guys have and so does everybody else. It's throughout the league, the next man up mentality. Did this team just kind of run out of gas after all the injuries and constantly having to lean on that moniker? Or, I mean, it's been a few days. Can you kind of put your finger on what went wrong and make sense of it? And where do you guys have to improve in the offseason to make sure that things get back to playoff football next year?
Yeah, we got to improve in a whole lot of areas. Obviously, we've got 8 wins right now, 8-8, and hopefully we can finish it with a winning season. But yeah, a ton of areas to improve. And if you could put your finger on it and it was one thing, you'd probably get it fixed pretty quickly. So it's probably a lot of things. And I know it's above my pay grade for Dan and Brad and everyone to look at when the season's over. But I think for us as players and for me as a leader of the team to look internally, look at yourself. How can you get better? Look yourself in the mirror. Don't point fingers. Don't say, well, if this is better, then this would be better. No, just look at yourself and see how you can improve. And usually, if that's done collectively, it's a collective improvement.
We know that you and Frank Ragnow had a great relationship with the quarterback center. I know you play with another center against the Vikings on Christmas Day. The quarterback center relationship is an important and unique one. Can you explain to us what goes into building a connection with your center or that relationship? Is there something every quarterback's looking for, or are all you guys are different? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've had great quarterback center relationships with all my guys, really. I can't think of any that I had a bad one with. And you spend so much time together. You always joke that I probably spend more time with Frank last year, Graham this year than they do with their wives. And so, we get to know each other very intimately. And, those guys have been great. This past week, Kingsley, and the week before, I thought he did a good job. And we'll see what we have this week.
So it feels different as a fan following a non-playoff team going into the last game, trending upward, and versus last year, or I should say, versus this year when you've got a 3-game losing streak. It's a non-playoff team. Everything was at stake the last game. What's at stake this Sunday against the Bears?
Yeah, our pride and who we are. And it's not, it's different than 2022. It definitely is different because of the expectations and like you said, the way it's finished the last 2 games, but the same thing remains where, it's still your resume. It's still who you are. It's about to be put on tape for 4 quarters. And what do you want the rest of the league to see? What do you want your own teammates to see? What do you want your coaches to see in front office across the league? That's what you're putting on tape. And, for myself and everyone on our team, how do we want to finish this year? And how do we want to at least, have somewhat of a stamp on feeling good about this last game?
Do you try to treat this at all like, hey, this is our playoff game, this is our Super Bowl, it's the last game of the year, it's the Bears,
No.
Obviously they're going to come loaded for us? No, you don't treat it any different?
No, I think because it's a division game, you want to win, a little bit extra maybe. I mean, they're going to go on to the playoffs and do whatever they do, but we'd love to, put one in their loss column before the season's over.
We've spoke to you before about kind of like the Lions' superpower seemed to be you guys always would bounce back after a loss. Like you went forever without back-to-back losses. What, if anything, changed the last 2 weeks that have just kept you guys from bouncing back like you normally do? Like, where did the superpower go, I guess, if you can pinpoint anything?
I can't pinpoint anything. If we could, I promise you we would fix it. I don't know. We had been good at winning after losses. And I don't know if that's, you don't want to, lose, but it is nice when you have a good feeling that you'll get the win after it. And, it had been a calling card of ours, and that Pittsburgh game didn't go our way, man. And that was the one that made it 2 in a row. And then, obviously 3 in a row now with that Minnesota game.
Different teams take different approaches if they're not in the playoffs going into the last week of the season. For those who want to rest starters going into the off season, can you explain to the listeners why it matters to you that you play on Sunday?
To me personally?
Yes.
Because I'm the quarterback of this team. That's what I do. I play on Sundays. Like, that's bottom line. And I think that's not just for me. That's for St. Brown. That's for everybody. Like, we get paid an exorbitant amount to play football on Sundays, and I don't care what the situation is. We're going to go out there and give it everything we have and try to win. And like I mentioned earlier, there's certainly guys that won't be on this team next year that are playing for future jobs, and they know that, and so they want to put their best foot forward as well. But I think the guys that will be here next year, they want to express to their teammates and to their coaches how much they care about each other and make that known on Sunday.
Obviously, this is a division game against the Bears, so it always means something, especially all the other stuff that you mentioned too. But knowing that you're going to go up against your former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, does it feel a little different or any difference at all this week?
Then what? Then
going against like someone that wasn't your former, offensive coordinator, I guess. Or
no, I don't think so. No, not this week. Maybe there's something to it that first time we played them, just because we hadn't seen each other and that was the first time back and whatnot. But no. And when I say there's something to it, it's just like the familiarity of seeing a guy again. Now at this point, we've played them already, and they've become a much better team than they were then, and so we'll have our hands full.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on that. Like, it's been a while since you guys played them. Obviously, they look a lot better than since you last played them. You've seen more tape on them now. How are they compared to the last time you played them? What you've seen on tape, at least?
Yeah, at least defensively, what I can tell, they play with good energy. They fly around. They're well coached. They're sound. Dennis Allen's a great coach, been in our league for a long time, and I've got a ton of respect for him. And they do a good job, man. I think the acquisition actually of C.J. Gardner-Johnson has given them a little juice, and he was a teammate of ours, and we'll see him. I'm sure he'll be chirping at us. That'll be fun for us. And yeah, man, they've done a good job of improving every week, and you can see it.
What was it that you guys threw 52 points against them in week 2, and from week 1 to week 2. It is like polar opposite in games and in the way that the team executed and the team played. How do you get back to being that team that was so laser focused in week 2 that threw 52 points against the Bears? Not that anybody is expecting to throw another 50 burger against them, but how do you get back to playing like that?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? We got a lot of work to do. It's a lot of work, and I think I kind of belabored it at this point. Like, looking internally, how can you improve? How can yourself get better? And I think if we had the magic potion, the magic button to press to get to where we're scoring 50 points a game, I'm sure we would have pressed it by now. So it's look internal and get better, and try to find ways yourself can improve, like I said, and not try to say, well, if this is better, then this will be better. No, that's not the right. We're not looking for problems. We're looking for solutions. And if everyone has that mentality, it'll collectively get a lot better.
So at the end of every season, every team in the NFL has roster changes. This just happens. That's the nature of the business. This Sunday being your last game this season, has it crossed your mind at all that this might be the last time you play a game with some of your current teammates, knowing how far you guys have come as a team, where how the team was when you got here, Jared, and now where you are and the expectations where they are? Has it ever crossed your mind at all yet? Like, this may be the last time you play with some of these guys?
Yeah, it happens every year. I guess now we know this is the last time, so you're more aware of it than when you're playing in the playoffs. But yeah, there's guys that are on expiring contracts that are going to be free agents, and happens every single year. And if they come back, great. If they don't, you wish them the best.
Kenyon mentioned this earlier about Frank Ragnow, and he tried to come back, and obviously had a torn hamstring that prevented him from doing it. Will you be talking to Frank this offseason and trying to convince him to make sure that he heals up the proper way so that he can play with you guys again next season?
No, I don't think that's in the cards at all.
You talking to Frank, or Frank's not going to play next year?
No, of course I'll talk to Frank. I just don't think his interest level is there.
All right, I just got one last one. Last week I talked to you about your newfound dad strength. I just want to give me a couple examples of any dad strength you experience. Like, are you opening up jars easier? You have quicker reflexes? Have you arm wrestled anyone recently?
Oh man, I don't know.
What the hell kind of question is
you're holding
that?
the baby a lot. I guess that helps. Left bicep strength a little bit. Left forearm. I'm holding her in that left arm a lot. So yeah, I guess I'm getting stronger there.
Are you bringing in extra bags of groceries than you normally would? Like, normally you're like, I got 3, but now I can get 5 in there.
That's right. Yeah, you're getting 5 on each arm, walking in, holding 10 bags. That's exactly it.
Lastly, for me, we got hit with snow yesterday. Have you gotten used to it after being here for the last 5 years? And also, can you see a reaction from your daughter when it comes to the snow? And how does Quincy like the snow?
Gosh, that's a great question. I love it. I think it's cool. I hate when it like rains and goes away and it gets all muddy and gross. But yesterday was fun. It was cool outside to see all that. And yeah, I don't know if she quite notices it yet. She sees it a little bit. The dog loves it. Quincy loves it. He runs out there, does everything out there. But I don't think she quite notices it yet. But yeah, I'm used to it. I love it here, and love when I get a little snow in the winter. And wish I could experience a little bit more of it through the next couple of months. But we'll do our best again next year and hopefully have better results.
I was going to say, how much time do you spend after the football season before you go back?
It depends every year. I don't know. It totally depends. I don't have an exact time or whatnot, but I love being here, and I know Kristen does too.
Well, Jared, we appreciate the time as always, and we wish you best of luck on Sunday to go ahead and go beat the Bears.
Okay, I probably should have cut that off a little bit earlier because, yeah, some of those questions, man, I mean, what the hell? This is football, right? I mean, I understand you want to get to know the guy a little bit better, but dad strength, groceries, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Like, can we stick to freaking football and the team? I get it. You want to understand a little bit more about Jared Goff, but if you're a father, you already know the answer. Right? You've been there, done it. There's only a few things that I wanted to pull out of this, and a couple of them we've already conversated a little bit about this morning. Number one, why would they play? And, why or why not would Dan Campbell hold guys out of this game? And I think Jared Goff said it perfectly. We're paid a lot of money to play the game of football on Sundays. And they want to go play. That's what they're paid to do. So if it's about earning your paycheck, I get it. I understand it. I understand that philosophy. I would agree with Jared Goff that, hey, we're paid to do a job. We have to go do our job. On the flip side of that, I don't think that Sheila is worried about sending you your check if you don't play. I don't think that she's sitting back saying, look, I'm paying you $2 million for this game to sit on the sideline. Okay? Or you're paying him $2 million to sit on the sideline and not risk an Achilles injury. That puts him on the sideline, that you're paying him $70 million for the next 12 months to sit on the sideline. So I think that it goes both ways here. I'd rather pay Jared Goff $2 million to sit out than $70 million to sit out. What would you do?
Play him.
Okay. All right. I just hope to God or your gods or your creator or the fish in the sea. I don't care. Pray to somebody. I don't care what it is, that none of these guys get injured in Chicago in cold weather going up against a team that is probably going to play players that have no business out there playing. Eric, do you remember the one thing that I say about preseason and why we see so many injuries in preseason? Do you remember what I said this year?
No.
Someone asked me, why is it that we seem to get a lot of injuries in preseason? And the number one thing that I have attributed to injuries is experience. You have players out there that don't know what the F they are doing. They haven't played all season, speaking about now, and now they're going to go in and play. That is like going in preseason, in your first preseason game, you have to learn how to play together. It's like a dance, man. It's like a ballet, right? You're moving to their move. The offensive line moves as a unit, right? The defensive line, it's all coordinated. It's like choreographed. When you don't have that choreography down, you start rolling up on guys, you start stepping on guys' heels and toes, and then they go down, and then another guy goes down, and then they get rolled up on, and then before you know it, you've got an ACL, or you've got a PCL, or you've got a broken arm. That is why in preseason you see more injuries, because they have not been doing it at a high rate of speed consistently week in and week out. Now, as you get to week 2 or 3 in the regular season, a lot of that stuff dissipates. We often say the Lions come out flat after preseason because they don't play in preseason. There's your answer. Why are they coming out flat? Why are they coming out a little rusty? Because they didn't go and get the rust out and get the kinks out in preseason. Had they played in preseason, they'd probably come out firing on most of their cylinders in week 1. But it still takes at least 1 to 2 weeks for them to finally shake it off and get rolling. Preseason is valuable. Not playing in a game that is completely meaningless outside of F the Bears. We don't want to lose to the Bears. We at least want to show we were a better team than the Bears this year. That's the only reason why you're playing this game. I hope it doesn't blow up in our face. You know what I'm saying? I hope it doesn't blow up in our face.
Yeah.
I really
So
do.
if you go back and look at injuries in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s compared to now, when would you think there's more injuries? Now or back in the 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Oof.
Just without looking. What would you think?
I don't need to look. I would say that it's kind of a loaded question because I think guys played with a lot more injuries back then that you didn't know about. The rules were different back then about reporting. So it may sway, how much was actually reported. But I would say back in the earlier days, there was a lot more injuries. But today, with medicine and training and the equipment, you're going to have less injuries. But I think we have more gruesome injuries today. Did I answer your question?
Okay. Now, back in my lifetime, we used to have 4 preseason games. Now we only have 3 since we went to 17 games. And before that, they played 6 preseason games.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Okay.
Is that when they had
And
is that when they had a 12-game regular schedule?
Yeah. And before that, they played 8 preseason games.
No,
Could
they
you
did
imagine?
not.
Yeah, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was 8. Well, 6 for sure. But could you imagine 6 preseason games and all the old timers, the old Hall of Fame guys, they all say that today's NFL is soft because they don't do any hitting in the preseason and they don't condition their bodies for all this hitting. And the only way to get used to being in so many car crashes is to be through so many car crashes.
Well,
And
yeah.
so were the people right back in the 80s when they had 6 preseason games? Or are they right now with 3 preseason games and no hitting and no doing anything in the preseason compared to what they used to do?
So I don't know how to answer that other than I'll just say this. The soft part of that is something that I've always spoke to is when players are coming back from injury and they haven't played, the reason why it takes a few games to kind of get rolling is your body is football soft. You might be strong, right? You might be in shape, but you haven't been punishing that body with hits. You have to go deliver some hits and take some hits to get the softness out of you, right? Harden your shell, if you will. Same thing in preseason. That is exactly why Dan Campbell practices the way that he does. But you know what, Dan? Do that in the summer. Cut that off as soon as you get into the preseason. No more during the regular season. Hell, don't even have padded practices in the regular season. If you do, have it be light duty. Put a lot more guys in red shirts. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm actually surprised that the NFL hasn't cut it out completely.
I just feel like, and I don't know how many padded practices, live practices you get in the regular season.
Yeah,
I think it is limited. But I guess to me, it's this simple: harden your bodies during practice, preseason. It's time to cut that off, right? As soon as you're done with preseason, it's over. You're going through enough car crashes every single week in a game. The guys are hard enough, right? The guys that haven't practiced because they've been injured, that's a different story. I mean, maybe they need to go run into the wall a few times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of people call it grit, but something I noticed this year was the fact that Dan Campbell teams in the past 3 seasons were always more physical than the other team and always took the other team to the limit. This year, the other teams were doing it to us. Something fell off this year. We didn't have the physicality that we had in previous seasons. And I don't think Dan changed anything, but something changed that we are not bullying the other teams. The other teams are bullying us. The only team that we bullied this year was the Chicago Bears. That was the only game where on both sides of the ball, we did whatever we wanted. And the rest of the games, it seems like, we had this slogan hunting season this year. It was more like hunted season this year. Everybody was after us. To win against the Lions was every team's Super Bowl this year. That's how it felt. They were giving it 1,000,000% on every play against the Lions because it was the Lions, because they were sick of getting bullied by the Lions. Just my 2 cents on that.
I don't think that, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I still feel like we're a highly physical team, but it did seem like we were getting out physicaled. Now, last season, or couple of seasons ago, remember when the Seahawks came in and I was pissed after that game because after watching that game, they 1,000% out physicaled us on every snap. The offensive line was getting thrashed, and I never seen Penei Sewell get thrown around the way that he did. And it was from that day forward, I think, that Dan Campbell stepped it up. So that would have been, 3 seasons ago?
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
Right? And I think that Dan Campbell kind of stepped it up from there. And I think that the tone changed a little bit. This year seemed a little bit different. And you know what it almost seemed like to me? Like everyone was worried about injury. I think that everyone was worried about getting injured. And they played that way. So maybe Dan Campbell has to clean house of all the players that had these major injuries. Because if they're playing scared, you're not going to win football games. You're not. You have to go out there and play lights out, right? Snap the whistle, through the whistle. Don't get a penalty, but you know what I mean. They need to play lights out. They need to turn it on and go. But if they're worried when they go make contact that they're going to get injured, then you're going to have a bunch of missed tackles. How many missed tackles did we have this year? A bunch of missed tackles. So I'm almost wondering if these guys are playing scared. When you play scared, you get hurt. You will get injured. Can't play that way. You got to play free. You got to let your hair down and go.
Playing not to get injured.
Yeah, if you're playing, playing soft, you're gonna do whatever you can do to win the rep. But when it's your turn to go make that open field tackle, you might think twice. It all happens in a flash. If you pull up at all, you're gonna miss. You're gonna miss. I don't want to get into. I see we're talking about future trades and stuff in the chat.
Yeah, they're talking about trading Montgomery.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll get into more draft talk again soon, but I'll make one comment on that because I don't want to get off into that today. But we'll make one comment on that. At least I will. As far as trading Montgomery, I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm not opposed to it. I like Monty, but if they're not going to use him, you can't pay a guy $8-9 million or whatever he's going to make this next year, to sit on the sideline. And with Craig Reynolds gone now, I mean, hell, the Lions lost their backup. They lost the guy that would have been next in line. And Sione Vaki can't stay healthy. He's great on special teams, but they have not utilized him enough. I mean, he's a freaking weapon on offense, and they're not using him. It doesn't make any sense. He could have been our backup safety. Why the hell didn't they use him? He was a safety in college. He was a great safety. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think they misused him. But as far as getting a 3rd-round pick, For Monty, that ain't going to happen. I'd have to disagree with that one, Attila. I don't think we're going to get a third round pick. You'd probably get closer to a fifth.
Fifth, maybe.
Maybe. If I were to take just a brief look at some previous trades.
Now, the one thing you could do with Monty is package him for a left tackle or a center. Somebody that needs a running back.
You could. I mean, let me add that to the sheet, a package. If I look at the rent-a-back window is what I'm going to call it. The rent-a-back, you know what I'm saying? You're renting Monty for a season. Cam Akers, he was traded to Houston, or traded from Houston to Minnesota back in 2024. The Texans received a conditional future pick, 2026 sixth-round pick. The Vikings received Cam Akers and a conditional 2026 seventh-round pick. So they did a pick swap and a player future 2 years down the road. But a conditional sixth and seventh round pick were traded for that. Again, let me make that make sense. The Vikings got Akers and a seventh in 2026, so 2 drafts away. The Texans only received a conditional sixth round pick in 2026, so 2 drafts away. Khalil Herbert traded from the Chicago Bears to the Bengals. At the trade deadline in 2024, the Bears received a 7th round pick in 2025. Joe Mixon traded from the Bengals to Houston. That was in March of 2024. The Bengals received a 2024 7th round pick for Joe Mixon. If I go back to 2023, DeAndre Swift traded from the Lions to Philadelphia. Compensation, the Lions received a 4th round pick and a swap of 7th round picks. So I don't see a 3rd round pick coming anywhere close to David Montgomery. He had 1 good year in Detroit. I do think he's a little underutilized at times, but is he a 1,000-yard, back? Is he your number 1 back on some teams? Maybe. But I would say that in a with a team that runs 2-back system, they'd want him. But not, I don't think, for anything more than a 5th, and even then it might be 2027 5th round pick. Is what I'm looking at. Now the package option, that might make more sense, Eric. That might make a lot more sense.
Let's say you're going after that center for the Ravens or something. I mean, maybe it makes sense for a center or a left tackle that, let's say the team is, wondering about a 5th-year option or didn't decline their 5th-year option, or they have 1 year left on their contract and looks like that team's ready to move on. Maybe then you can, but that's going to be a tough one.
And just to tell you, I'm not picking on you, but I'm just I'm putting my thoughts, out there. So the question is, were these backs good as David? Joe Mixon, identical to David, identical. He was averaging 1,000 yards in 24 and 23 and 10 TDs and 40 receptions in both those seasons. That was his average. DeAndre Swift, I think we know enough about DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift, if you go back and look at his production with the Lions, was not great. He was 542 yards in 22, 617 in 21, but he didn't play a full season either. The fact that the Lions even got what they got for him, what was it, a 4th round pick and a swap of 7ths? Man, we stole him. Or we stole that trade. I don't even know how we pulled that off. Khalil Herbert, go ahead.
He had a good season with Philly.
Yeah.
But he was only there for 1 year.
But the trade from the Lions to Philly is what we would be, looking at.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert with the Bears in 20. So when was he traded? This is the Bears to Cincy. He had like no stats at all in 24. I think he was injured that entire year. 23, he had 6'11". That's when David Montgomery was there, right? Was 23, was that his last year? No, 22 was his last year. He had 731, a few TDs. Khalil Herbert, 7th round pick. So that's where I would say a 5th round pick makes sense. Cam Akers, definitely. Definitely we're talking a back that you could say is as good or better than David Montgomery if he's actually used. You know, if he's actually used. This year, he hasn't done anything. I think he's been injured all year. And with the Vikings, I think he was injured all year in 25. In 24, he didn't get much playing time. But I think we can all agree that Cam Akers is a very dynamic football player. 6th round pick. So I would say a 5th at most for David Montgomery. Just my opinion. I don't want to go too much, deeper into it today because I'm really not prepared on that. All right, so the last part of the day. Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions.
Mm-hmm.
The plan. Fight it out to the bitter end. I think that we've heard from Jared Goff and what their plan is, at least right now. But Ben Johnson clearly stated his approach in the Week 18 game. He said that he's given a direct message about the approach to this game to his team and to the former team, where he said, yep, we are playing to win this week. Whatever that is, he was quoted as saying, I'm not going to call a play I don't fully believe in. If we go down, we're going to go down swinging like that. Ben Johnson says he has immense trust in the Bears offense. And that was on December 29. I'm not sure what that quote was from or why it was even what was asked. But at the end of the day, I think that what Ben Johnson is saying is they're going all in. They're going to try to beat the Lions in Week 18. I assume that they're putting their starters out. I don't know where anyone has heard that he's resting them, but I guess we'll find out on Sunday afternoon what really is going to happen. Dan Campbell said, look, you can always find a lot out with 1 to go. And no, we're not playing for the playoffs, but there are still things that we can find out. And I expect the guys that we have here to give it what they got one more time. That's the expectation. So, again, whether Dan Campbell plays his starters or not, I think that what you're going to see with the injury report is telling of who the Lions are going to play. Some of these injuries that pop up this week, may or may not even be valid. They just might be parking some of these guys. There's no injury report up yet. I think the first one will come out today at 4 p.m. That will be valid for the game on Sunday. Whether the Lions or the Bears start their starters, does it make any difference for you?
It does. I think that we embarrassed the living shit out of the Bears in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
We dominated them 52-21. We never took our foot off the gas pedal, and the Bears and Ben Johnson were booed incessantly at Ford Field, and the Bears and Ben Johnson want some revenge. I know that it also plays into the Bears and Ben Johnson want to play the 7 seed. They want to be the number 2 because right now they are the number 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
If the playoffs started today, they would play at home versus the Packers in the playoffs on Wild Card Weekend. Well, the Bears cannot go after the number 1 seed. They don't have enough wins with only 11. They lost that chance when they lost to the 49ers last week. And this is going to be a pride game. Ben Johnson's going against his former team, his former boss, his former players. And he wants nothing more than to go into the playoffs with a win and the number 2 seed instead of the number 3 seed. If they are the number 3 seed, there's a chance they have to play the Rams. So, or Philly. So would you rather play the Rams, Philly, or the Packers? If I'm Ben Johnson and I want to win my first playoff game, I'm going to take my chances with the Packers, a team I've already beat just a couple of weeks ago. A team that's completely decimated by injury. And who knows who's going to play in that playoff game for them. So if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm going to try everything I can to not only right the ship for the playoff game and go into the playoffs with a win, but I want to make up for that embarrassment from week 2 at Ford Field and show the Lions that I am good enough to beat your team. If I was Ben Johnson, that's what I would do.
Attila, I appreciate the $2 super chat. We'll have to carry that into tomorrow because I'm up against it. I've got to head out, and that's a much longer conversation. The question is who do you want to see as the Lions' new offensive coordinator in 2026? I think that like I said, I'll talk about it tomorrow, but I think that the Lions do have some options on the team already. It's kind of slim pickings. See, the problem that we have, if you're looking at bringing someone in from college, well, a lot of those guys have already signed, new deals with new head coaches at their respective institutions. There's been a lot of head coach signings, and they're already plucking guys, off of other rosters to be their positional coaches and coordinators. So new OC in Detroit. Maybe if I get a moment today, I'll do a video, and then we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow too. But I do believe that there's 2 guys on the roster already that should be looked at heavily. Damn it, there was just one other thing. Hold on. Well, I will tell you this though. The defensive coordinator thing with Brian Flores that keeps flying around.
Why would he leave the Vikings?
Everyone's saying that, he's going to be in Detroit and take Calvin Shepard's job. Yeah, no. Number one, Brian Flores will have an opportunity at head coaching jobs in 2026. I don't think he's going to leave the Vikings as a defensive coordinator just to go become a defensive coordinator elsewhere. If he does not get a head coaching position, then I think he falls back to the Vikings. But why would he go to Detroit? Maybe he likes our defense, but I don't know why you would leave the defense that you already have. They've got a crazy good defense over there that will only get better in this next season. So I don't see Flores leaving, and especially leaving to a divisional rival and doing what Ben Johnson did. That it is so rare, right? Positional coaches, I don't give 2 squirts about. I don't care where positional coaches go. I don't care what team they really go to. But DCs, OCs, head coaches, that's a different story. And the same thing for GMs. Guys that haven't been a GM before, that they're moving on to become a GM, I don't care where they go. That does not matter to me. What matters to me is the 3 guys on the sideline that are pulling all the strings. OC, DC, HC. Those are the 3 guys that matter the most. And I think that if you have any gumption about you at all, you're not going to go to a divisional rival. Final thing I want to say is the last text. And go ahead, Eric, if you want to answer that or comment on that.
Just Brian Flores ain't coming here.
No.
100 out of 100, it's not happening.
I'm willing to take bets on it too.
Yeah, me too. That's another one of those believing the meme things that you see on Facebook. Just Stop. That's what I opened up the show with yesterday, showing you that someone texted me and asked me about, is Jared Goff getting traded? Is Jared Goff getting fined? Is Hutchinson going to another team? It's the most ridiculous crap. I don't know why people put it out. I don't get it. Why make up a bunch of lies just for clicks? I get everybody wants to be first, but when you're first with something that's completely false, it doesn't gain you followers.
You know what? I think I'll leave it there. I will. I'll save some of this for tomorrow. I
Right.
plan on being on tomorrow. I think Eric
For sure.
is planning on being on. I haven't done anything on New Year's Eve, and I can't tell you how long.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody shows up tomorrow morning.
Yeah, whether you do or whether you don't, we'll be there. We'll still put
still
something.
be here.
We'll put something together.
Yeah, I found something really cool for tomorrow about the luck factor in the NFL.
The luck
So,
factor.
Yeah.
I love the luck factor because you need a little bit of luck.
Well,
I was going to say
would
this
it-
though. I was going to comment on what you were saying about the Bears and wanting the 7th seed,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
7 versus a 6. I think that the Packers would be a better team to go up against only because they're injured. And you don't know what's going on with Jordan Love, or they've been holding Jordan Love out just to make sure that he could play in the playoffs. And maybe Willis has the hot hand right now. Maybe he is the better play. Maybe they run both quarterbacks. Maybe next year you see a 2 QB system if they're able to keep Willis.
He's a free agent though.
Yeah, well, maybe they can keep him.
They can't afford him.
Well, we'll
There's
see.
no way.
We'll see.
And-
Maybe they trade Jordan Love.
Yeah. God, jeez, that's funny.
Maybe they trade Jordan Love. I don't know. Look, he's decent, but he's
hey,
not. He's not a
Hey,
franchise
Matt,
QB.
now, Matt. Look, okay, here's a whole hornet's nest for you. So, the Packers are resting friggin' everybody this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if they go into the playoffs and they lose? Okay, let's say to the Bears. And the fan base goes nuclear on Matt LaFleur. There's already there in the middle of the season, there was a bunch of stuff about Matt LaFleur possibly being on the hot seat. I think he's very on the hot seat if he does nothing for the 3rd year in a row in the playoffs.
All right, I got to end on this though.
Okay.
This has now happened to us twice this year. Son of a gun.
What's that?
Well, I mean, not that I expected this guy to be on the team next year, but Kingsley Aguakun is now Cleveland Brown.
What? How?
Yep. The Browns are signing center Kingsley Aguakun off the Lions practice squad per Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So we didn't bring him up to the 53, which I do believe that the Lions get an option to make the move.
Yeah, but listen, if they want a center that's going to shoot the ball 5 yards to the right instead of hiking it back to your quarterback, they can keep him. Sucks that we put all that time and effort into him and then he just gets stolen, kind of like Craig Reynolds. But those two players don't even compare. In Egukun, I don't even see how he made our practice squad this year. Where Craig Reynolds should still be on our team.
Yeah, I don't like the whole Craig Reynolds one. That one bothers me. Kingsley doesn't bother me
No.
as much, but
Craig Reynolds, that bothers me because Kirby Joseph could have went on IR weeks earlier. We don't lose Craig Reynolds. He's still on our team.
here's the thing. The Lions don't give a shit about Kingsley either because they have an option to move him up immediately. They did.
Yep.
They could have. The minute that the Browns came calling, and they could have easily moved him up to the 53 to block it, but they didn't. So this probably just tells us that I assume Graham Glasgow will be good to go.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Thank you from Trace. She gave us a $10 super chat and said, "Happy New Year, everyone." That's how I'm going to leave you guys. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, there you go. Happy New Year's Eve. We'll be back tomorrow, and appreciate you, Trace, as always. It's a new year tomorrow, so let's bring it in with some new energy. I know it's going to be difficult for the next few months, but that's all we can do. That's all we can do is try to be positive and move forward, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. My New Year's resolution, I'm not going to tell you, but it has nothing to do with me. We'll put it that way. Maybe I'll tell you tomorrow. All right, you guys have a good rest of your day. Go on Pride, go Detroit Lions. Happy New Year. Let's bring it in the right way. Let's bring it with positivity. Eric, have a good day, man. We'll see you.
Pressured by